So, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I have always been ambivalent about this project. Although I am a big Tarantino fan, I've been a big Tarantino fan for many years, ever since I first saw my uncle's copy of Pulp Fiction. I have, even with that in mind, I've always looked at this project with a healthy dose of skepticism and concern. Because while I love Quentin Tarantino's weirdo, fetishistic tendencies and violence and horrific gore and his odd swearing at times, when I think of who is a filmmaker that should make a film regarding the Manson family murder of Sharon Tate and her guests on that night back in 1969, Quentin Tarantino is not the first filmmaker I have in mind. And when this project was first announced, I had a very clear idea of what this movie was going to be, and it was not at all what I really would liked to have seen, or just I didn't think this material would fit Tarantino all that well. And I am pleased to report that this movie is not at all what I expected. Yes, it is a movie about the Manson family murders. It is a movie revolving around old Hollywood back in the late 1960s. This is about, yes, Sharon Tate is a character in this movie. Roman Polanski is a character in this movie. But like Tarantino said, it's more about the end of an era than specifically about Sharon Tate's murder. And what this movie basically is, without really getting into specifics, because this is a movie that works best if you don't know anything about it going in. And if you understand the history behind it, it just makes this even better. And what makes this movie interesting is that it is a love letter to cinema, specifically this era of cinema from Quentin Tarantino. And he has gone out of his way to restructure the look and the feel and the vibe of the 1960s Hollywood scene, with the encroaching influence of the hippie culture and the Manson family culture at the time. And I think in that regard, he's done an amazing job recapturing the spirit of the 1960s. Now, I've never around in the 1960s, but this is an era that very clearly is near and dear to Tarantino's heart, and I feel like he pays absolute respect to it. And the way he goes about doing this is he creates this really funny, slightly dramatic buddy comedy revolving around Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's characters, where if you've seen the trailers, you know that Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of like an aging star. He feels like he's a has-been. And then you've got Brad Pitt's character, who's basically his chauffeur throughout the movie, his stunt double. And what Tarantino does is create this dichotomy between the rise of the new Hollywood, with, you know, comparing and contrasting people like Roman Polanski, who were coming in making movies that were very different from the type that were made back in the 1940s and 1950s, and also the old Western TV shows that the Leonardo DiCaprio character was involved in. And it's this wonderful compare and contrast between the two, and it also feeds into DiCaprio's arc, where he feels like he's become a has-been, and then it just rubs salt in the wound when he sees that the new young hot shit Roman Polanski and his wife slash occasional co-star Sharon Tate is in it. And it creates this very funny trip through old Hollywood, and also really exploring like how the transition of Hollywood from, you know, films like the Humphrey Bogart movies, or like Clark Gable, that old style of cinema. And then you've got this new style of cinema coming in, where it's specifically mentioned like Rosemary's Baby. You've got the old Italian westerns coming in, and I love that, you know, despite Tarantino's like really heavy indulgence into creating like, oh, I know my movie trivia, it feels much more affectionate than annoying, which is something that I was a little bit concerned with as well. Now, regarding the rest of the movie, I think the pacing is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I think the editing is strange at points. It has these really weird, like sequences that kind of like flow in odd ways, and they have like flashbacks within flashbacks, and they have like cutaway gags that remind me, like, I think Half in the Bag were the ones that mentioned it reminded them of Family Guy, which I think is correct. I think is the right comparison for this. And for me, even though this movie was like 3 hours long, or nearly 3 hours long, I was completely absorbed in what was going on. And to me, like, this felt shorter than Endgame. Like, I felt the 3 hours with Endgame. I didn't feel the near 3 hours with this. And I think that's just because Tarantino, for me, is like one of the last great titans of cinema right now, where a lot of cinema is becoming so like overrun with the comic book stuff and like the Disney Marvel influence, and you've got like the fucking smorgasbord of MCU movies coming out for the next fucking 20 million years. And this to me felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt like I was just going into this and seeing it as this one man's creatively driven, passionate project. It wasn't some corporate bullshit. It was Tarantino doing a subject that he actually felt passionate about. And that's what I love about this movie. I don't love the movie as a whole, because like I said, I think the editing can be weird. The pacing is a little iffy at points. I think it's unfortunate that Sharon Tate isn't given more to do in this movie. But like I said with Endgame, or I think I said it with Endgame, or if I did a video about Endgame, this is a movie where it's a great ensemble cast, and it's got all these like little bits and pieces moving around here and there. You've got like great actors coming in for cameos. You got like Kurt Russell, you got Michael Madsen, you got Timothy Olyphant, you got Dakota Fanning, you've got Luke Perry in his final performance, you got Al Pacino, and then it's just like, oh my god, there's just it's like insane ensemble cast that you have for this movie, and it's just a fun movie to watch. Now, concerning Tarantino's usual weirdo habits, like his foot fetish and his like graphic violence, I think like the violence in this movie, it's very reserved until the ending. And I'm not going to get into what the ending is, but all I will say is that this movie does what Tarantino is really good at. He's really good at taking a place in time, and he's gotten really good at this too. And he takes this place in time and he makes it his own. He makes it like the atmosphere just oozes and drips with this sense of respect, while also being not afraid to insert your own idiosyncrasies into it. And that's what I think makes Tarantino such a great filmmaker. Acting wise, this movie is like top notch. Everyone gives like at the bare minimum like a really good performance. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's hilarious. I don't think I wonder what this role would have been in the hands of somebody different, like somebody who actually is like a has-been actor. But I think DiCaprio's really funny in it. He's another really good performance from him. The person that I think this movie belongs to, besides Quentin Tarantino, is Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is given the more subdued, charismatic performance, but he is wonderful in this. This is the best I've seen Brad Pitt in years. Probably the last time I enjoyed a Brad Pitt performance so much was maybe in Inglourious Basterds. That might be the last time. And he's fantastic in this movie. He just runs away with the fucking movie compared to Leonardo DiCaprio. And like I said, Leonardo DiCaprio, he gets more screen time, he gets the flashier performance, he gets to like show off more, like he gets like the well-known scenes. But then you have Brad Pitt over here, and he just oozes charm and charisma, and he just is naturally a presence in this movie. He's just like a natural born actor. He's fantastic. The little that Sharon Tate is in this movie, I think Margot Robbie does a good job. Sharon Tate, makeup in particular with her looks like eerily lifelike. There were moments in this movie where, because I've seen quite a few Sharon Tate movies, and I'm just like, I stare at Margot Robbie in this movie, and my brain has a hard time like remembering, like, oh yeah, like it had to remind itself, like, oh yeah, that's Margot Robbie playing Sharon Tate. That's not actually Sharon Tate. Because I think the makeup, like, it's subtle, but it's really well done. She's not like caked out to look like Sharon Tate. It's just really subtle things that the makeup does. It's just wonderful makeup job. I think it should get like an Oscar nomination or something for the makeup. All the other actors, and Tarantino is like, he's an actor's director, and he brings like good performances out of everybody. You got like I said, Dakota Fanning. She plays Squeaky, who's one of the Manson girls. You got Bruce Dern as Spalding, as the Spalding Ranch. He's funny in the scene that he's in. You've got Timothy Olyphant, who I love. I think he's one of our best actors working today. He's great. He always seems to play a cowboy in a movie, and he's wonderful. You've got like small little cameos from Michael Madsen and Scoot McNairy and Luke Perry, like, sadly in his final performance. And everyone just brings their A game to this, because you got somebody like Tarantino that knows how to bring quality material to them. And yeah, it works really well for this. If I were to have any other complaints, like really thinking about it, besides the weird pacing and the weird structure of it, I think my only other complaint is that it's just what's not there. And what's not there is that there's a lot of talking in this movie. And that's not a bad thing, because this was billed as like, oh, you know, this is his most like fucking, like, this is the one that's like Pulp Fiction the most. And there's a lot of talking, but unlike Pulp Fiction, unlike Inglourious Basterds, unlike Hateful Eight, it doesn't have a lot of the standard Tarantino tension that I love to see from his movies. I think it has it in certain moments. It has a moment like the finale and the moment where Brad Pitt goes to the Spalding Ranch. I think that really sells the tension on that. But the rest of it, a lot of it is just talking, but there's no real like undercurrent of unease or anything like that, because it's more of a straight comedy. This is probably probably out of all of his films, I think this is the one that is the most like front loaded with comedy. And you know, he's made funny movies. I think, you know, Django Unchained is hilarious. I think Inglourious Basterds has funny moments. I think Hateful Eight is darkly funny. Pulp Fiction can be funny. Jackie Brown can be funny. Kill Bill is definitely funny. But this is the one that's like kind of like with an exclamation mark. That's like, this is a comedy. This is a comedy. Watch it as a comedy. And I was like, okay. And I watched it as a comedy. But as a comedy, I think Tarantino is not up to like the usual chops without his standard tension that he's got. He's really great at building tension. But without that, I think the dialogue and the back and forth and the editing kind of suffers a little bit because of that lack of an undercurrent. And what makes me really sad, and I felt kind of like a little, like I felt satisfied at the end, but I felt a little bit melancholic as well, and because this is kind of like a meta movie in a way, is that it reminded me that there's one last movie that Tarantino's got to do before he retires. And that made me sad, because Tarantino is one of my favorite filmmakers. I love going to watch his movies with people. I love going to see his movies in a theater, because he is a guy who is not afraid to rock the boat when it comes to like controversy or what is acceptable. And I don't think everything, I don't treat him like this golden goose. I don't treat him like he can't do no wrong. But I think we have such a lack of filmmakers nowadays that are willing to take risks and willing to rock the boat and willing to say things that might piss people off and willing to make films that make you, like, mainstream films. There's a lot of independent films that make you feel uncomfortable, but like mainstream films that challenge an audience and make them feel uncomfortable and make them like question themselves. And Tarantino's really, really great at that, at making you laugh and gasp at the same time. Like you'll laugh, but then you'll be like, oh my god, like you'll wonder like why you laughed, and you'll just think about that with yourself. And he's great at that, and it makes me sad that he's gonna retire after his 10th film, or allegedly he's gonna retire after his 10th film, because I think Tarantino has a lot to give. His movies feel like events, and I've talked about this many times on the channel with video games, where I think there's a lack of an event. I miss the era where video game releases were events. And when a Tarantino movie comes out, because they come out like every 3 to 4 years, around about that, they feel like events. Like, to me, this movie felt more like I was going to see something special, more than like Endgame. Or Endgame, I walked in, I was like, yeah, I know this is like a big thing for everybody, but for me, this is just another Marvel movie. And I'm not knocking Endgame, because I really like Endgame, but I just think when a Tarantino movie comes out, or like a David Fincher movie comes out, or even though I'm not a big fan recently, like a Nolan movie comes out, they feel like events. They feel like a person's vision, rather than just like a boardroom of suits doing something. And I think that's great, and I miss that, and I'm going to miss that when Tarantino retires, because I really look forward to his movies. Even despite my ambivalence towards this one, I still in a way was looking forward to it, because I wanted to see it with an audience. Like when I went to go see Inglourious Basterds, one of my fondest memories going to see Inglourious Basterds with two people who I like are basically like family to me, and they were just like one of them was just like losing their shit during it, and it was I loved it. And then when I went to go watch Django Unchained with like a whole group of people, that was just so much fun, because I love the movie, and I love like sharing that experience with my friends. When I went to go see Hateful Eight in the 70mm roadshow that they had for it, I loved seeing it in the theater, because you could just sense like the discomfort in the air. And with this movie too, like seeing it with an audience and like hearing like the laughter and the applause and all that, and I was just like, okay, this is what the theater going experience should be like. And I know like a lot of, I know it's inconvenient to go to theaters nowadays, like the prices are ridiculous, and the food is fucking ridiculous, and the seating, and they've got like different kinds of screenings and all that shit. I know it's so much easier to just stay home and like rent movies from Redbox and watch them on Netflix and whatever. And I'm not technically against like the rise of streaming services, but this did remind me that I am going to miss the theater going experience with like when Tarantino goes away and retires and just doesn't make movies anymore. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood reminded me like how much fun that can be, just going out with your friends to watch a movie like this. And it's not just like the latest superhero movie or the latest like animated live action remake shit like The Lion King or Aladdin. It's not a Disney movie. It's not some like corporate bullshit. It is a fun passion project from a filmmaker who makes good shit. And when you get a room full of people in that, and they all like feed off of one another and share in that experience together, that's just wonderful. Like it's I love it, and I'm going to miss it. So anyway, would I recommend Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Yeah, absolutely. Just brush up on your Manson family knowledge a little bit, and then go in to see it. And I think if you know what to expect with Quentin Tarantino, I think you'll be fine. And now we just have one more movie left from Quentin Tarantino, and yeah, gonna be sad when he retires. So anyway, thank you guys for watching this longer version of Popcorn Mango. I guess I can't really do this in like my normal edited way, so I think I'll throw this up as like a little mini solo podcast. Should be fun. Alrighty, bye.